Hey everybody, this is Les and Christy, and this is the Easy Farms Podcast, where we are doing things from the ground up. We're here to help guide your homesteading adventure and hopefully make the journey a little easier. Hey everybody, welcome back to Ezekiel Farm. We're glad you're joining us again this week. Updates on the farm here. We've been putting a lot of things in the garden, in the raised beds, and that seems to be taking off. Christy was concerned about watering, and then it just started to rain, and it just won't stop. So everything's well watered and starting to take off. What all have you got in the garden?
Oh, we just got a little of everything. Tomatoes, watermelon, cucumbers, cantaloupe, green beans. I like green beans, so I plant a lot of green beans. A lot of herbs, some flowers, because it's always good to plant your pollinators, help bring the pollinators to the garden. Let me think. Peppers. That may be about it. Those are
one more weeds.
Oh, no, I don't. I have switched this year to all raised beds, testing that out. I don't have a lot of time for an in-ground garden. Actually, if anybody wants to know anything about that, we have couple podcasts ago, I did a whole thing on bucket garden, raised beds, and in-ground. Yeah. And we've done it all and talked the pros and cons.
Makes weeding a lot easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, weeding is a lot easier. I do have to pull some weeds, but all that to say, that's been in the garden, and garden is going, and it's thriving, and we're really excited about that. Hope everybody's garden is doing well. Yeah, also,
the grass is growing in the yard, and it's relentless.
A lot of yard cutting.
A lot of yard cutting going on, and also down in the fields where the sheep and the chickens are, the weeds are thriving as well. Of course, that's food for the animals, but there's a lot of them that they don't like to eat that continue to grow and can get out of control.
Oh my goodness, yeah. We've had so much rain and not able to get out there and bush hog these areas because it's definitely bigger than even a riding lawnmower can handle. And it got, all of a sudden, the weeds just took off, and they're food for the animals. Fortunately, they're food for our chickens and our sheep, but we have questioned, did we get rid of our goats too soon this year? We thought, oh my goodness, we should have waited to fall to get rid of those goats. Now we're wondering, do we need to buy a few goats to help out the weeding?
There are some weeds that the sheep and the chickens just will not eat. And they have been well fertilized because the chickens and the sheep are down there doing what chickens and sheep do. And it is, some of them are waist deep. And I think I'm going to be able to get on the bush hog here in the next few days and take some of that down so we can actually see what's going on.
Actually see our animals. How about that?
It's hard to find the chickens in there sometimes. And that brings us to today's topic, which is Raising Chickens 101.
Yeah, raising chickens, it is easy to do if you have the space for it and you desire chickens. We definitely believe in grabbing some chickens for your backyard or your homestead, out in your land, whatever you have for that. We started raising chickens about 25, 26 years ago for the first time. And let me just tell you, there's so much information out on the web today, social media, just going to the web, blog posts, videos, YouTubes, that tells you everything you need to know. So you probably don't even need to know this podcast. However, we're going to go ahead and tell you a little bit of...
We're going to be part of that crowd that tells people how to raise chickens.
We're just, anything that we can impart, we'll definitely try to do that today. But back when we started raising chickens, there was none of that. It was
dial up.
It's terrible. We were thankful for what we had back then, but
it took hours to download a picture.
It was not. That's right. That's right. But we had to know somebody who was raising chickens, or we just winged it on our own. And a lot of what we did was winged it on our own. And in our first,
they're chickens. They have wings, so you wing it.
Okay. In our first podcast about our journey, we tell a lot more of our story at trying to raise chickens. So if you want to go back and listen to that, but we'll tell just a bit of it. We did order from a hatchery, and we had to order 25. I don't even know. We probably didn't even realize Tractor Supply back then probably even sold chicks. It was just what we did. We needed to go online. We got the catalog and we called them up and
It was
we
the
made.
days of catalogs too.
Yeah. And we still, you know what? People still do catalogs. So they still give them out for free.
Yep.
Most companies. So they're fun to have, just something to have tangible to hold on to. But that's what we had. We called them up, talked to them about what breeds to get. So we did a nice little order of every kind of little pretty chicken out there, from Americanas to Buff Orpingtons, Barred Rocks, things, Black Australops, all those, some of them, the Easter Eggers and all that. And we ordered those.
You were more into decorative chickens in the backyard at that point. Yeah, it was all about pretty chickens, not ramping up, a whole bunch of eggs.
Yeah, we just wanted to see chickens in our backyard, and our kids were little. We had 4 little kids at the time, and I just wanted them to have the experience, and we wanted to have the experience, but we did not know what all came with chickens. One, we did not even understand their housing. Frankly, do you remember what we did with baby chicks when they came in? Surely we built a little something inside a storage building.
Yeah, we had a storage building. It was about a 10 by 12.
Yeah.
Which was plenty of room for the number of chickens we had.
We had tons of stuff in that storage building, too.
Probably just kind of barricaded off a corner.
I think that's what we did. Yeah, we just put them in a section.
Yeah, we didn't even have nesting boxes in there. I think we ended up with some milk crates for nesting boxes.
Eventually.
Which worked out.
Eventually, because you remember, we went in there and we found...
Oh, there were eggs everywhere.
Piles of eggs, hiding under stuff that we just stored in there.
There were eggs in other storage buildings, under storage buildings, in every nook and cranny and corner of the backyard.
We did not realize what to do to help chickens lay in their boxes. We did not realize about roosting. We didn't realize the need for chickens, what the chickens needed. Boy, that was...
We were beginners. We were totally green when we started doing this, and we just went and got chickens, because that's
sometimes
you gotta go get chickens if you're gonna have chickens.
You just jump out in there. I do recommend learning a little bit about some of the needs, the chickens' needs, what they need, what helps out and makes that a little better than we had, because retraining chickens wasn't as easy, and frankly we didn't even know that we could actually retrain a chicken to do what it needed to do. They were sleeping under the coop, in the coop, but those are fun times when we look back on them.
Yeah, that kind of brings to mind a statement that we've heard a lot lately at a lot of the conferences, which is infrastructure before animals. That means have the coop and everything you're going to need for the chickens.
Yep.
Long before you actually order the chickens.
Absolutely.
Because it's, you can have a mess on your hands if you do it in the wrong order, and we did it.
Yeah.
We did it big.
We did. And the thing about it is, I don't think we learned from it, because I think we kept doing it. we have other experiences.
We still do it now.
We have, oh my goodness. We'll be like, let's get another animal.
Yeah, let's get sheep.
Let's just throw them out there.
What do you think a sheep needs? I don't know. We'll get that when they get here.
So maybe we'll take our own advice.
Why do you need a sheep house if you don't have sheep?
So, you'll hear people talk about chicken math. And chicken math is real. I didn't realize it was something called chicken math until I got on social media and started looking at homesteaders and stuff. And I was
people making fun of people like us.
Right. It was like chicken math. What is chicken? Oh, that is really a real thing. Chicken math, for anybody that doesn't know it, is basically when you go get chickens. So let's just say you want 10 chickens, for your family, and that's about all you need. And you're, especially a lot of wives, convincing their husbands, we need some chickens. The kids need them. We can start collecting eggs. Oh, think about all the eggs we'll get, saving money. Well, let's don't forget all the investment, but that's another talk. And then they can go out and get the eggs. And then next thing you know, they're coming home from Tractor Supply with next year with another 12 or another 10. And then they're going, oh, we need some more chickens, because they're fun. They're fun to keep. You excited about bringing in eggs. And you get all excited about all that. And then it just multiplies and multiplies. You love seeing them out in the yard. They're pretty.
Not
they're
because you're
funny.
hatching them out. They multiply because you go get more.
I know.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, they're buying incubators and they want to hatch out. Chicken math is real. I mean, somebody who sells says, "Oh, I don't want any more than 10 chickens, and that's about it." I can tell you right now, within a couple of years, you may have 50 chickens in your backyard, possibly.
Well, hopefully not if you live in a subdivision in town. You do need to check your ordinances in your local area to make sure that you can legally have chickens in your backyard. A lot of places are now letting you do that. Not roosters, obviously, because roosters hens are noisy. I'm shooting video on building our Eggmobile, our chicken tractor. And the chickens we have in the background are making so much noise. I mean, it's just like, okay, I got to reshoot this video because you can't hear what I'm saying because they're so loud and they won't shut up. And we've got 2 roosters because we have so many chickens. But the roosters can be very annoying.
Well,
and if you have more than 1 or 2, they start competing with each other, and you're going to have roosters crowing all day and all night.
Well, that leads to a question people have. Do I need a rooster? Should I get a rooster?
Well, roosters, it depends on what you're going to do. I've heard reports of eggs are actually more healthy for you when there is a rooster on site. In other words, the hens are fertilized. You're not, you're getting the eggs long before they start to grow anything. But the roosters, they are important. They're, part of the early warning system for all the hens. Mm-hmm. They're not much on protection, although they do attack. Sometimes they attack the owners, the kids, the dogs, and people get spurred. But they also... Like when a predator comes around, they will run out and attack the predator. Mm-hmm. Of course, they do that by jumping in the predator's mouth. And unfortunately, the predator runs off with them as he waves goodbye to all the hens. And
well, what you were saying about them attacking, I watched a video the other day of a hawk getting in a chicken yard. And that rooster came out and started attacking that hawk. And that hawk was losing its mind, trying to figure out how to get out of that chicken yard. And I thought that was the coolest thing.
Roosters can be pretty aggressive.
And one of the reasons that the rooster will get attacked is because they are protecting the hens. They will go out and they will be basically the sacrificial chicken.
Yeah, it's a sacrificial love.
Yeah, that's what it is. It is. So do you need a rooster? No, you don't need a rooster.
No, you'll still get eggs.
Your eggs. You don't need a rooster to get eggs. You will get eggs. That has no problem. Sometimes roosters can stress a flock out. If you don't have enough hens and you have a rooster and you ever watch what that looks like, that can stress a flock out. So my recommendation, if you have 20 hens, if you want a rooster, grab a rooster. You don't need a rooster, but they are early warning systems. They are beautiful. But let's talk just a little bit about rooster, the aggressiveness of a rooster.
Yeah, sometimes roosters can stress mom out too.
Yeah, buddy.
I have had Christy come up the hill before with emphatic instructions to go shoot that rooster. And she's not just upset and kidding around either. She's like, don't come back up to the house with that if you hadn't shot him. You stay down there till you've shot him.
Yeah.
And we've had roosters that have been so aggressive that Christy wouldn't even go down there into the chicken yard without this stick. I saw her with one time. It was a war club. It really was.
It wasn't a stick.
Shaped like the caveman club that Fred Flintstone carries around. I watched her bat one across the field one time. I bet he went 25 feet. And he didn't jump back up and attack again. He kind of flopped around on the ground, but then he got up and limped off. And sometimes you have to stand your ground with them for sure. And they don't always learn. And Christy, you've heard of a trick that you do with them to tame roosters.
Yeah,
It seems to work pretty well.
I've done it with two different breeds. I think it was two different breeds so far. I've done it with several roosters, but I've only done it with two different breeds. What I would do was I would pick up roosters and we would carry, my son would carry, our youngest son, when he was younger, he would carry roosters around when he was younger. And he would hold them in positions that actually kind of shame them or emasculate them. And I know that sounds terrible, but before I talk a little bit about that, I want to speak to the fact that roosters can very much harm you. Mm-hmm. And they have spurs. They can harm children. They can get their eyes, small children out there with your roosters. I don't want to scare you from roosters, but I want you to consider the seriousness of roosters. They're beautiful animals. They help you be able to hatch eggs. They're great. There are some breeds that I hear don't attack, but we have had probably 10 different breed roosters that we all learn from hatcheries. Oh, these are the most calmest. These are the ones that don't attack. And literally every single one of them have attacked. And I started noticing that our youngest son, he would carry them around and then he would hold them, carry them tight, carry them not like he was their friend, like I am dominant over you. But not only that, he literally said, I said, why are these roosters never attacking you, but they'll attack me or they'll even attack a dog or any of that? And he said, well, I will have moments where I'll turn them upside down in my arms and hold them kind of like you hold a baby, but he would hold them upside down and just kind of look at them and they just stare at each other. And he said, then I would carry them as if I'm in control. And I started thinking about all that. And then we got some more roosters. So I decided, okay, you know what? In this particular flock, there was a ton of roosters that came. We did not order them, but they turned out to be roosters. And
we picked those up at the store.
Yeah, I won't do that again. I will order from a hatchery. Their percentages are better at what you get. However, with that, I took 3 of those roosters and I started doing what he did. And I tagged them because we had several roosters and we were having to pick which ones we were going to get rid of. And I decided I was going to do what he did. And every time I walked out there, they never attacked me. And the other ones would start showing aggression. And these 3 never attacked me. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is actually working. So I started doing that. We finally got rid of the other roosters. And then eventually I heard somebody say, well, there are breeds that are aggressive and there are breeds that are not aggressive. There's some are easier to train and some are not. So I thought, all right, I'm up for the challenge. So I decided I'm going to order Rhode Island Red Roosters. Those are some little mean jokers also. So I did the same thing with those roosters and I've never been attacked. Now I'm on this rooster challenge. So I'm ready to train almost any rooster to see if it works with even some of the most aggressive breeds, which I really do. I would really like to do this and try this with every breed. People will go, oh, my roosters, they're 8 months old or 6 months old. They've never attacked me. They're really nice. When they come into their own adulthood, which typically could be definitely older than that for some roosters, is when that aggression comes out. And so once again, I don't want to stay on roosters because we got so much to talk about. But that is a serious subject for us. We take roosters very seriously, and we don't want children in our yard with our chickens if they're small and there's roosters. We don't want to take a chance because they can definitely harm you. But let's switch gears so we cannot spend too much time on the podcast, and let's switch to investments. How about that?
Yeah, I mean it can be. Even just a small flock in your backyard can be a pretty good investment. If you've already got some sort of building out there that, you're going to sacrifice to make your chicken coop, that's good to start with. Sometimes you'll need to buy something. Sometimes, a building works. Sometimes you have to build something. Or you can buy a small chicken tractor. Again, if you're in town and you're only going to get, a handful of chickens, you don't need a huge building for them. And the chicken tractors, the idea is it moves around so it spreads the poo around too. I think the first thing you would need to determine is, are you just getting chickens for eggs for your family? if that's what you're doing, you probably don't need but 3 chickens per person. So a family of 4, 10 or 12 chickens should be enough hens. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with a whole bunch of eggs. If you get 15 or 20 or 30 chickens,
give them to someone. Yeah,
maybe you can raise eggs for your immediate family or next door neighbors or friends, or give them to somebody at church. If you're not starting a massive egg production, it can get bigger than you need to pretty quick. Some of the other things you're going to need is feeders and waterers.
Mm-hmm.
The number of waterers comes down to how often do you want to fill it up versus, how long do you want to stand there filling waterers? We've got a lot of chickens, so we fill a whole bunch of waterers up each time, and they go through it every couple of days. The other thing would be chicken feed and
Mm-hmm.
scratch. Scratch grains are good in the wintertime because it helps their digestive system build heat. We use it as a distraction where our chickens are. We'll throw a couple of cupfuls out just to get them to run the other direction as we go through the gate so they're not right underfoot. That gives you time to collect eggs. It gives you time to fill waters, that sort of thing.
Well, in the investment on chicken coops, there's also different types of chicken coops. One, we got your stationary chicken coop, which is what most people have.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we did. We had a
fixed building.
We had a storage building,
Mm-hmm.
and we turned it into a chicken coop. Wasn't quite like we wanted it, or no, like it should have been, but it worked for a while. But over time, once we had another storage building, and we turned that into a chicken coop
Mm-hmm.
with more of our knowledge at that time of what the chickens needed. But like Les said, there is investments. So you got different types of coops. You got the stationary, and then you've got the chicken tractor. We have since moved to the chicken tractor, but the pros and cons of both of those, there's good in both of them, and there's cons in both of them. One, in the stationary, you don't have to get out there and move it. You don't have to. You can build it how you want it. I have seen some of the cutest stationary coops. They paint them. People paint them. They have windows, cute doors. They even hang flower pots out there. They're just pretty signs, making them so adorable in their backyard or, in their homestead. And then you can decide if you want to make a chicken run from that. That's got a nice little run with a closed top so no predators can get to it, or just let them run free range. You can do that, or just a chicken yard. The cons to that is the cleaning of a chicken coop. It's stationary. That poo's got to go somewhere. It
goes on the floor of the coop, and you have to get it out of the coop.
It is.
So whatever bedding you have in there, whether it's hay, straw, people have put like tarps down.
Sand. They put sand. They put wood chips. All of that is fine, but you have to clean it. And for us, we got tired. No matter which way we looked at it, we got tired of hauling out chicken poo.
Well, and my sinuses could not handle it. Christy banned me actually from cleaning the chicken coop back when the kids were young. And it would be Christy and the bigger of the kids, even the small ones actually, down there helping drag stuff out and get it out of there. And it would just mess me up for days.
I know.
And so she literally would not let me come down there to do it.
Sometimes I look back on it and think, why didn't we just put a mask on the man and come up here and help us?
That was before masks were big, before
right.
COVID.
But you can use your chicken poo for your compost.
Mm-hmm.
That is great to put it in your garden the next year. You got to let it compost because it's got to go through that cycle and not be a hot poo, and get it to where it needs to be. But those are some of the cons to it. Another con with a stationary coop is it's more susceptible to mites, moisture, things like that, diseases. So therefore, you do have to clean them often. You got to remember that you need ventilation in your coop. Don't forget those things. Those are very important. Chickens need ventilation big time to ventilate all that ammonia that comes from because they pee and poop at the same time. It's a combination at the same time.
It all comes out at the same place.
And it's ammonia. There's a lot of ammonia, and you need that ventilated. for the sake of them and you. And we used to have and we had different coops, and we just decided at one point we wanted a chicken tractor. Les had seen a chicken tractor, and I don't know, how old is this chicken tractor that we have right now?
Wow. The first one?
Yeah.
I bet it's 10 or 12 years old.
Yeah. And you made that off a boat trailer.
Everything, well, other than a boat trailer, well, we sold a boat to a guy, and he had a trailer that he was wanting to get rid of. So he gave us money and the trailer from his old boat. I have no idea what happened to his boat, but he had a trailer. So the rest of the chicken coop was lumber already on site of various lengths, just scrap lumber I had. So I literally was like, I've got all this scrap lumber I need to do something with, because I was keeping it, because I'm going to have a project in the future. I'm going to need it. Well, here it was. So all the lumber was already on site. A friend of ours had a cabin on their property that had corrugated tin metal roof on it that they had stripped off, and they were putting a different roof on. And Christy happened to be over at their house while that was going on. And she called me up. She goes, "You're not going to believe what I found." So the siding and the roof of this Eggmobile was the corrugated tin roof off of their cabin. And then I had some plywood that I built the nesting boxes out of. I don't even know that I had to go buy screws and nails for it. I think I already had those on the property too. So it was just like, it kind of looks like it. It's kind of a ramshackle, but it works.
It works.
Oh my, it's worked for a dozen years.
And the nesting boxes are exterior. The bottom is wire. And what Les does is he pulls it around our property with the tractor, and the poo goes to the bottom, falls out onto the ground, fertilizes and neutralizes the ground to therefore produce better weeds, better
grasses.
Yes, better grasses for the chickens, which will also produce more bugs, things like that for the chickens to eat. So you may want to consider something like that. You don't need something as big as what we had if you just have a small chicken. But I'll tell you, there is a guy out there, Justin Rhodes, who has he's called a chickshaw, and he makes one small. It's perfect for just backyards. You can move it yourself. You can buy them to wear in their kits. You can do that. It helps to keep the chicken coop cleaner. You don't have to clean it, anything like that.
It spreads the manure around, so it fertilizes your fields or your backyard. The one I built out of the boat trailer was built to house 200 hens.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. You don't need anything that big, obviously. But yeah, something way smaller than that for a dozen hens would be great.
So the one that Les is building now, we're switching to the hen gear nesting boxes. And we're excited to use those because it's the rollout nesting boxes. Once again, the nesting boxes will be exterior. We collect everything from the outside. We don't have to go in it. And we're really excited about using it because chickens can crack the eggs, sit in it and just in the nesting boxes, get in a habit of pecking an egg, because once they crack an egg, even by accident, that's exciting for them. They want to eat that egg. And then that can also develop some habits to cracking an egg anyhow. And so, and they come in there with their muddy feet from a lot of rain, things like that. It can make the nesting boxes dirty. There are all kinds of things you can do in your nesting box by putting hay, straw, nesting pads, different things in there. And with that, though, that makes for more washing when they do that. With the rollout nesting boxes, we're hoping they'll work as they show in their ad, and it rolls away from the chicken, and therefore the next hen that comes in the box won't be sitting on it, cracking it, or doing anything like that. That's what we're doing for this coop. But so there's the pros and cons. You got a stationary coop. You got to consider in your infrastructure. Do you want a movable coop? We call an Eggmobile. That's where we got that word from Joe Solitan. Chicken tractor. That's the most common name for it, is a chicken tractor. You can do that. So let's talk just a minute, real quick, feed. Let me just talk just about that, about feed. Chickens will eat, they have a high metabolism. They need to be fed feed. The average feed you're going to get out there is going to be about 16% protein, The higher the protein in them, the better. You can buy 22% protein. They can eat
That's considered more of a layer feed.
Yeah, these are layer feeds. These layer feeds need a higher protein because they have a very high metabolism. They can eat and survive off of just what's out there in nature just by foraging. But if you're trying to get eggs and you want to take good care of your chickens, yes, get some feed. You can buy non-GMO, organic. You can even buy corn and soy-free feed. That helps people. That I've heard a lot of good from that. It's anybody that may have an egg issue, egg allergy. A lot of times it's not in the chicken or just the egg. It's from the feed. So you can buy corn-free and soy-free feed that's organic and non-GMO. They eat your scraps from your kitchen, your garden.
Boy, will they.
They love watermelon rinds. Oh my goodness, chickens love watermelon. You can take banana peels, cut them up, give them to them, your bread, your fruit, your veggies. They like all that stuff. So when you're peeling your tomatoes or your zucchini and cucumbers and things like that, apple peels, if you have any of that, give those
I've
to
even
the
heard
chickens.
they'll eat Brussels sprouts, which is hard to believe because nothing likes Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, well, Les doesn't like Brussels sprouts.
No.
But when he said scratch grains, mainly scratch grains are not going to give them nourishment like they need. They don't offer a lot of that. But if you want to give them scratch grains in the cold weather, it does help heat them up for the winter. So when the winter is getting really cold, then that night we will give them scratch grains in the late afternoon to help build up their body heat by digestion. And that helps them. And sometimes I've heard it can raise their body temperature up, 15, maybe 20% with that. Another thing that goes along with the chickens is molting. And chickens will molt, but if you feed them a higher protein, and let me just go back real quick to molting. What molting is in a chicken is when they're typically, their first molting will be at about 18 months old, and they will start to shed their feathers. And when they do that, they slow down their egg production because they are going to grow new feathers and thicker and better feathers. And so they need to shed some of their feathers. They won't shed them all, but occasionally you'll look at a chicken and it just looks horrible. They've shed a lot of feathers and they look terrible. And then some will only shed just a small amount. But it takes a few months for them to go through that process. And in that process, they stop or slow down egg production. And one of the things you can do is go to a higher count protein for feed. You can feed them mealworms, high protein foods, you can sprout grains. That is very high in protein for them. And that helps the process, speeding up the process, and helps them to get back to egg laying.
Yeah, don't be surprised when you go through this at about 18 months because suddenly the chickens will start looking horrible. There'll be feathers all over the yard. Your egg count will go down, and you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, what's going on? What's wrong? What's wrong?"
Yeah.
Well, it's just molting.
It is just molting. You'll notice it. Sometimes people get concerned, like, "Oh, what's wrong with my chickens? Do they have mites? Do they have that?" And that's a legit concern. But a lot of it is molting, and that's what it is. And they'll go through it. Fall time is the best time for molting for them. It's when they do it the most, but some do it in the spring. We have a big batch of chickens molting right now in the spring, and our egg count has dropped
Considerably.
Yeah, and that's hard when you have an egg business like we do. But
when you get your chickens, go ahead and mark your calendar for 18 months. And that way you'll look at your calendar and oh my gosh, what's going on with our chickens? Oh, wait.
Then they'll molt a little more.
It's time that they're molting,
Yeah, they'll molt a little more often after that. That's their first molt. But another thing to feed chickens is they need calcium. If you have eggshells that are not thick and hard, then that chicken more likely is too low in calcium. And some of the great things to do with that is you can go to your
feed supply.
Thank you. Go to your feed supply place and you can buy oyster shells. That is really good for them. You can take the eggshells you have and you can cook them at a low temperature for 10 or 12 minutes, crunch them up, and give them to the chickens. Just put them back in their feed, or just put them in a container for them. Yeah, just put them on the ground. They scratch and peck and eat them. That has a lot of calcium in it. You can do that. You can feed them if you find a high calcium food. I don't really know what that would be, but you can get creative with that. So these are things to consider in your chickens. And when they're little, they need grit. But if your chickens are around a driveway, like a gravel driveway, they will eat and peck from that driveway, and that helps their system, helps their digestion.
They have got to have grit in their gizzard to help grind up their food. That's what that does. Their gizzard is like a muscle, and that grit gets in there, and that muscle works, and it actually crunches up the food because they don't have teeth to chew with. So, yeah, if they don't have access to, like Christy said, a driveway or whatever, or if your soil's not sandy and rocky, you're going to need to provide them some grit in a separate container, and they'll go get what they need, and their body knows what they need. And you can't give them too much, but you do need to keep them a good supply of that out there. Yeah.
So real quick on breeds, let's just talk about a few breeds. There are a lot of different chicken breeds. Kind of know maybe what you want. If you want both multiple looking, like colorful egg carton, colorful little basket when you collect eggs, then you can look those up. There are breeds that lay multiple shades of brown, from very light tan, almost bone color, to very dark brown. Beautiful, beautiful. And then there's some that they call the Easter eggers. They'll lay from bright blue to a teal to mint type greens, things like that. There's speckled ones that lay speckled eggs. Look at those in those breeds. They're make beautiful, beautiful eggs, beautiful chickens. You'll see all the variety in your yard. It's so much fun to watch them and look at them. And that really is fun to have that pretty nesting basket. I mean, I say nesting basket, but just your egg carton can be so gorgeous. Just for your family, pictures, you can show people and sell them. People love to buy that. We used to have that, but now we have switched to more of a high producing eggs, ones that produce like some of the highest.
We're a business.
It's a business. But I told Les, I said, I really miss that kind of flock. I miss that. And I really want to get a side flock with.
Get you a front yard flock?
Well, no. Hey, speaking of that, our garden's in the front yard, which triggered a thought. One of the things you can do with your chickens over the winter is, if you have movable coop in any way, is to move those chickens close to your garden and let them scratch up your garden and poo and everything all in your garden. And then so many months before garden season, just move them off of it and let all that compost in. You will be so surprised.
Yeah, you do need to move them off a couple of months at least. I 3 months.
Maybe more. I don't know. Maybe more than that. We haven't done that because
all the bad stuff in their poo needs to die off and get composted into the garden.
It's been so long. Our chicken tractor can't make it at the place where the garden is. That's a long story.
It's too big.
It's too big, and getting it up a kind of a hill we got. However, some people like to have little pets out of their chickens. I mean, I've seen people, they bring them in. Chickens will poo constantly. So can remember that. They get up on your porch, poo on your porch.
Oh, boy.
But any of that, but they'll carry them around on their shoulders. They're little pets. I've seen them where they fall asleep in their arms. It's really cute. And chickens love treats. They're so much fun to have them kind of jump up for a treat, or when they know you're coming out with watermelon in the summer or anything to give them.
That's fine with a dozen hens. But we've got about 125 to 150 hens in our field down the hill, and that's not what you want, is a bunch of them running up to you like that.
Right. Well, I think we've talked about a lot of things, just considering your infrastructure, considering what kind of chicken coop you want to build, what part of the yard, or what part of the yard. Because you remember, they will get in your flower bed and they'll tear up things. They'll get on your front porch and they'll make a mess. And for some people, that's okay. But if that's not okay with you, then you want to consider, do you need to fence off your chickens? One of the things you can get is electric fencing, and you can kind of move that around some and move your chickens in a little bit different spots. Don't forget, when you're looking at chicken coops to build or to buy, do you want to go inside that coop every time and collect eggs? Do you want to collect them on the outside? It's so much beneficial to collect eggs on the outside. We've done both, and I will say My personal favorite is not to have to walk in that coop every time, to be able to just walk straight up to the outside and collect the eggs. What kind of nesting boxes you want, how many, you got to look that up. If you have 6, 7 nesting boxes, that handles up to about 75 chickens. 50 to 75 chickens, that's fine. Chickens will find a way. They'll get 2 and 3 in a nesting box if they need to. If they're overcrowded, they will lay on the floor or in the yard. But we've talked about that. We've talked about the pros and cons to chicken tractor or stationary. We talked about feed, what they can eat, different breeds. We didn't talk about specifically, but in the breeds, what I didn't mention is you have heavy breeds and you have light breeds. Heavy breeds, some people actually will eventually process them. Mm-hmm. They're a heavier breed. They have
dual purpose breed.
They're considered they are dual purposes. You can use them just for egg layers, or you can process them. There's other breeds that are not heavy breeds. They're not as good for the processing part. So they're better just for egg laying. So consider that when, selecting your breed. You may want to look more into that. One thing I didn't talk about was about free ranging your chickens and keeping them protected. That is important. Chickens are definitely a predator's delight, and they're easy to be attacked, by foxes, raccoons, coyotes, whatever it may be, hawks, anything like that, other dogs. So you may want to start with, one is, do you want to free range your chickens, or do you want to have like a chicken run that is covered? I said that earlier. But if you do free range your chickens, you don't want to do it until they have already learned in their coop how to go, sit on perches, how to, get up there at night. And once they're really comfortable with that and they're a few months old, unless you have a little small fenced area for them to go in and out of their coop in the daytime and at night, I would not let them free range until they're a few months old, because they need to know exactly where their place of safety is. They need to know exactly where they go to sleep at night, and you can then start to free range them out. When you first start free ranging them, one of the best things to do is keep their food and water inside their coop. So they have to go back to the coop to find their food and water. They will automatically go back to the coop at night. Once they know that is their home, that is their safe place. Chickens have an internal clock in them, and as the sun is starting to go down, when it's still a lot of daylight, they start to go into that coop at night and they start to roost. And that's going to help them. If you don't have another way to protect them, like even a fenced yard won't necessarily keep out a raccoon, because we've definitely had chickens killed when we had coops by raccoons coming into a fenced yard. But you can go out at night and you can shut the coop at night and then open it back up in the morning. That's going to be their best protection. There is also automatic coop doors. They're small. You can buy those, and they go work on electric power or solar or both. And it goes to the clock of the sun. They go up and down according to what you set it to, or the sun. But I will recommend, if you're going for chickens that you want really good eggs, free range those chickens if you can. When chickens get into new grasses, new territory, new woods, new bugs, everything, those eggs are going to be very rich. And you're going to see that and taste the difference of that. That determines the richness and the taste of the eggs, is that. Otherwise, if they're just in a small area or even just in the same place over and over, they will tear up. Chickens will take that beautiful grassy patch and they'll turn it to dirt in no time. And there's not going to be really ability for anything to grow on that again while they're there. That's just what to know about chickens in this area. So you may want to consider that in your infrastructure and in your planning. And what else do we have to talk about before we go?
The one thing we hadn't gone over is wintertime and chickens. We used to put heat lamps in our chicken coops and our egg mobiles, and it was just a big deal. It's like it had timers on them. And then Christy was online and she was watching this guy in Montana, I believe it was, and his chickens. And he was like, I don't put heat lamps on my chickens. And he's like, in Montana, way up in the mountains and like snow everywhere.
Oh, it was way in the negatives up there.
Yeah, the temperatures were freezing, below freezing, and they can handle it. And as long as they got access to food, like Christy was saying earlier, scratch grains help keep them warm. They have the ability to stay warm. You just need to be able to get them to where they can get in and out of their coop, in and out of the drafts, and in and out of the rain. But they can handle very cold temperatures. It's just the way they've been designed since creation. They do need, like I said, circulation in the coop to keep the moisture out of the coop. Chickens, they'll build up body heat overnight. If you got a bunch of them in there and closed up in a coop that's not ventilated very well, that moisture from them breathing can build up as well, and that can cause problems.
And chickens will cramp up. I mean, cramp up, that didn't sound best, but they'll
pile
up together, cram up together. They'll roost. They'll just go down the roosting bars until they just get tight up next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps the body heat and keeps them warm.
Yeah, the baby, if you have baby chicks in the fall, which is probably not the best time of year to get chicks, because you're coming into colder temperatures. Best time would probably be in the spring when you're coming into warmer temperatures, but there are different light options in that. And remember, those heat lamps are fire hazards. We've seen videos where coops have caught on fire, and that's not something you want to go through.
We walked through an experience one time with that too. So your heat lamps are definitely could be a fire hazard. I did see somebody the other day for the first time selling and patent some type of a lamp that automatically comes on and off with the sun, sets at certain times so the chickens can have a certain amount of light in the winter if you want them to keep laying. And it was fire hazardous proof.
Yeah, okay.
So I thought, well, that's interesting. But a side note on that real quick, chickens that if you put lights on them, they need a certain amount of light to lay eggs.
Yeah.
And if they don't have about 16 hours or 18 hours of daylight, their egg production laying in the winter will go way down. If you're okay with that, that is okay with them too, because it keeps their body clock doing well. If you're needing those eggs in the winter, then you may want to consider to go up their protein.
Some kind of light with a timer on it.
Some kind of a light for your coop. Yeah. All they need is just a little bit of low lighting.
But as far as keeping them warm in the wintertime, like I said, scratch grains, we'll do a 22% protein feed, and along with your scraps, or you can use mealworms to help them generate their own body heat. The major problem you're going to have in the wintertime with chickens is your waterers, because water freezes in cold temperatures, and sometimes that'll crack your waterers. You have to rotate them out. You have to dump them out and let them thaw. So it helps to have, some extra waterers on hands that you can fill those up, bring your other ones in, let them thaw, and then swap them out throughout the day and the night. The other problem you might have is hoses freezing. Consider how you're going to fill your waterers.
With that, one of the things Les said was the primary thing for wintering your chickens is just keeping them out of wind, rain, drafts, things like that. Having them they need the ability to get in, and they need the ability to get out.
They'll take care of themselves if they can have access to that.
Yeah, we've had, we don't get a very negative here. We have experienced -6 at the lowest for where we are a few years ago. And then we had some negative temperatures each year since that. Mm-hmm. And like that. But we've watched our chickens. They're out in it. They go out in it. They don't care. They just need the ability to get back in. So keeping them locked up and being afraid that they're going to, get sick and die, let them just have that choice. They're God's creation. God has created them to know that, and they will. They don't like how it feels out there to them. They will go back in. If it's starting to rain, they will go in. That's for sure. They know how to get out of it. They just need that ability. So with all of that, hope that helps you.
Go get you some chickens.
Get some chickens. Have fun. Have some farm fresh, free ranged, pastured eggs. over time, you'll never want to go back to store-bought eggs, and enjoy that. And we want to thank you so much for being with us today. We hope you have a good week. If you liked our podcast, we would ask you to give us a 5-star rating. Consider giving us that, sharing it with your friends and family. Let them hear what we have to say. We do appreciate it. We are not in the podcasting long, and this will help. Any help will work. Also, if you want to ask a question or make a comment, that would help us out greatly too. And we're on all major podcasting platforms. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. The link is below. We hope you have a wonderful day, wonderful week.
This week's Bible verse is Psalms 91, 2-4. I will say of Adonai, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. For He will rescue you from the hunter's trap and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. Y'all have a good week.